even if they close this thing off today and shut it in, it's a catastrophe. And it's going to take certainly years for the ecosystem and the human communities to fully recover, if indeed they can fully recover. That's also a debatable question.
All right, so if you watch the live oil feed, what you're seeing now, the oil really billowing out, we understand that they are still using chemical dispersants on this oil, and there's been a lot of criticism that we don't know what the impact of the dispersants are on the marine animals there, the plankton and the shrimp, and at the very microcellular level, whether dispersed oil can be as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than the oil that you can see on the surface. What's your take on that?
Well, dispersants are certainly an issue. They have their own inherent toxicity, much more mild than the oil itself. But the combination of the oil and the dispersant actually has a combined cumulative toxicity that's more than the sum of the individual toxicity. So there's questions about whether to use this dispersant at depth in the first place and on the surface as well. But the other thing I think going on this morning, that they installed this brand new capping stack, and it sprung a leak within a couple of hours of it being used. I think BP can now also stand for bad plumbers. I think it really calls into question the entire veracity of this entire operation. I think this is a real risk to try to shut this thing in right now and not just produce the oil up to the surface vessels, which is certainly the safer and perhaps wiser choice to take.
And you know, there's been some skepticism on the part of people who know how this is done, and they say, look, if you put the cap over it, and you have two options. You say you get the cap fitted properly. You can either suck it up to the ships that are on the surface, and we get an accurate measurement of how much oil is spewing out, or you very slowly try to stop the spewing oil altogether. You don't capture it at the surface, and this is why they're going to be watching those pressure monitors to see if by shutting it all down, are they going to blow it out somewhere else along the sea floor, and then you end up with a real mess. People are skeptical because they're saying it's not in BP's best financial interest to know how much oil is spewing.
Well, there's certainly that, but also they don't really have the 4 vessels ready to go on the surface to start collecting 100% of this blowout. That's another issue. And so it's certainly in their financial and political interest to try to shut this thing in as quickly as possible. We all want it shut down. But my point, and I think a lot of people in the scientific community are wondering, why pose the risk to the potential effectiveness of the bottom kill with the relief well by shutting this thing down, pressurizing the wellbore and the casing, and potentially blowing that thing out down between the seabed and the oil reservoir, making it impossible, or difficult at least, to do the final solution. And I'm not sure that this is a risk worth taking. It certainly doesn't seem prudent. They're within a couple weeks of doing the bottom kill with the relief well.
Right.
And I think the safest thing to do is just continue to bring the oil to the surface as effectively as possible.
Rick Steiner, I appreciate you sharing some of your expertise and insight with us. Thanks. Just moments.